Have you ever loved someone who shares the same face as another? How can your heart recognize the right soul when your eyes see the same reflection twice? The executive office on the top floor of Kang Tower in Gangnam had a panoramic view of the Han River, but Kang Junwoo hadn't looked out the window in months. At 34 years old, he commanded Kang Industries, a technology and semiconductor conglomerate employing tens of thousands. His decisions moved billions of won in the market. But today, the most important decision had nothing to do with business. Today, he would finally divorce Song Minna. 3 years. 3 years of a marriage that existed only on paper and in public appearances. Separate bedrooms, polite, empty conversations. Business dinners where she smiled perfectly at his side, playing the role of CEO's wife with mechanical precision, but no warmth, no connection, no love. The marriage had been his mother's idea. Chairman Kang Sun-hee, matriarch of the Kang family, had orchestrated everything with surgical precision. The Song family has proper lineage. Minna studied in Europe, speaks 4 languages, knows how to conduct herself in society. She's exactly what you need. What his mother didn't say, but he understood perfectly, was, "Forget that other girl. Her sister isn't suitable for our family." Junwoo picked up the divorce papers from his desk. Everything was prepared. Generous financial settlements. He wasn't petty. Even if the marriage had been a mistake, Minna would receive an apartment in Cheongdam-dong, a substantial sum of money, and keep all the jewelry he'd given her during the marriage. In return, she would sign the papers without drama, and they would move on with separate lives. Simple, civilized, final. His secretary, Kim Tae-min, entered after knocking discreetly. "Sir, your wife called. She's asking to postpone the meeting by an hour. She's at the beauty salon in Apgujeong." "That's fine. Reschedule for 3 o'clock at the Gangnam district office." "Already arranged, sir." Taemin hesitated. "Sir, if I may." Mrs. Song seemed different on the phone. "Different how?" "I couldn't say exactly. Her tone, perhaps. More emotional. She also mentioned she wanted to have lunch with you before the meeting." Junwoo frowned. In 3 years of marriage, Minna had never requested anything personal. "Lunch?" "She suggested the restaurant where you first met. She said it would be appropriate closure." Something twisted in Junwoo's chest. Minna never spoke sentimentally. She was practical, cold, efficient. This was unlike her. "Tell her I'll meet her there at 2. "Yes, sir." After Taemin left, Junwoo's phone rang. It was his sister, Kang Soo-jin. "Appa, are you really going through with it?" "Yes. Why does everyone keep asking me that?" "Because Mother is planning something. She's been meeting with Mrs. Song all week. I think they're trying to stop the divorce. They can't stop it if we both sign the papers. I'm just warning you. You know how Mother gets when she doesn't get her way. And Mrs. Song is even worse. She's been obsessed with keeping Minna married to you. Something about family reputation and business connections. Let them plan whatever they want. It won't change anything. Just be careful, Appa. And, are you going to look for her afterward?" Junwoo didn't need to ask who. "I don't know, Soo-jin. You should. Everyone knows you loved Haerin, not Minna. This marriage was wrong from the start." After hanging up, Junwoo allowed himself to think about Song Haerin for the first time in weeks. Minna's twin sister. Identical in appearance. Same expressive brown eyes, same silky black hair, same delicate bone structure, but completely different in every other way. Minna was cold, calculating, ambitious. Haerin was warm, artistic, gentle. Minna spoke 5 languages, but never said anything with real emotion. Haerin could express more with a single painting than Minna could with 1,000 words. He'd met Haerin first, 4 years ago, at an art gallery in Samcheong-dong. She was exhibiting her paintings, emotional, raw pieces about identity and belonging, They'd started talking, and the connection was immediate. Within weeks, they were deeply in love. But then he'd met her family. The twins' mother, Madame Song Youngja, was a formidable woman obsessed with status and connections. She made it instantly clear that Haerin, the younger twin, the artist, the dreamer, was not appropriate for a chaebol heir. Haerin is too sensitive for your world, Madame Song had said during an uncomfortable family dinner. She cries at sad movies, spends money on art supplies instead of proper clothes, and has no understanding of business. Minna, however, is perfect for you. Older, more mature, educated in international business. She's been preparing her whole life to be the wife of someone important. His own mother had agreed enthusiastically. The older twin is clearly superior, more refined, better educated, more suitable temperament for a chairman's wife. The pressure had been relentless from both families. Haerin, sensitive to the conflict and not wanting to cause problems, had pulled away. Maybe they're right, she'd said tearfully. Maybe I'm not strong enough for your world. Maybe Minna can give you what you need. I don't want what I need, Junwoo had argued. I want what makes me happy. But you have responsibilities. Your family, your company, your future. I can't be part of that. I'd only hold you back. She'd left Seoul the next week, taking a teaching position in Busan. And Junwoo, pressured by both mothers, and convinced by everyone around him that duty mattered more than love, had married Min-ah 6 months later. The wedding had been grand, held at the Shilla Hotel with 500 guests, covered by every major newspaper. Min-ah had looked beautiful in her wedding dress, identical to Haerin in every physical way. But when Junwoo looked into her eyes during the ceremony, all he saw was the wrong person. On their wedding night, Min-ah had been surprisingly direct. I know you don't love me. I know you love Haerin. But I've loved you since the day she brought you home to meet the family. I saw you, and I knew you were the one I wanted. So I worked hard to become exactly what your family needed. I studied harder, learned more languages, perfected my manners. I made myself into the perfect wife for you. Minna, don't apologize. I knew what I was getting into. But I'm telling you now, I will be the best wife you could ask for. In public, I'll be perfect. In private, we can have whatever arrangement you want. Just don't ask me to give up on the hope that someday you might actually see me instead of seeing her. But 3 years later, that hope had clearly died. Minna had become colder, more distant, barely speaking to him unless necessary. The marriage was a shell, and they both knew it. At 1:30, Junwoo left for the restaurant. It was a traditional Korean establishment in Insadong, elegant and quiet, where he and Minna had first been introduced by their mothers. He arrived 10 minutes early and was surprised to see Minna already there. She wore a crimson-red dress, striking, bold, completely unlike her usual conservative style. Her hair was styled differently too, softer and more natural than the severe bun she typically wore. For a moment, she looked so much like Haerin that Junwoo's breath caught. You came, she said, standing as he approached. Her voice was different too, softer, less controlled. You asked me to. He sat across from her, studying her face. Minna, are you all right? You seem different. I wanted to talk before we signed the papers, to say things I should have said 3 years ago, or maybe never said at all. All right. A waiter brought tea, and Minna waited until they were alone again before speaking. I've been seeing a therapist. Did you know that? No. For 6 months now. She's helping me understand some things about myself. About why I am the way I am. Minna's hands trembled slightly as she poured tea. I've been so angry at you for 3 years. Angry that you didn't love me. Angry that you looked at me and saw her. Angry that I wasn't enough just being myself. But the truth is, I was never myself around you. I was always performing, always trying to be what everyone said you needed. Mina, please, let me finish. I need to say this. She took a breath. My mother raised Minna and Hiren very differently. Hiren was the beautiful one, the talented one, the one everyone loved naturally. I was the responsible one, the practical one, the one who had to work for every bit of approval. Mother always said Hiren had natural charm, but I had to cultivate mine. So I studied harder, learned more, tried to be perfect. And when Hiren brought you home, and I saw the way you looked at her, I wanted that so badly. I wanted someone to look at me that way. I'm sorry, Junwoo said quietly. Don't be. I made my choices. When Mother said she could arrange for you to marry me instead of Hiren, I agreed. I knew it was wrong, but I wanted you so much that I convinced myself it would work out, that you'd eventually forget her and learn to love me. But you never did. And instead of accepting that, I became bitter and cold. I punished you for not loving me by making sure you could never get close enough to try. It wasn't all your fault. I should have fought harder for Hiren. I should have refused to marry you. Instead, I took the easy path and made us both miserable. Mina smiled sadly. We're quite a pair, aren't we? Both too cowardly to choose what we really wanted. But at least now we can end it honestly. Is that what you want? Honest ending? Yes. I'm going to sign those papers today. Junwoo. And then I'm going to leave Seoul. I've accepted a position with a company in Singapore. New city, new start, new person. I'll finally figure out who Song Minna is when she's not trying to be someone's perfect wife. Something about her resignation made Junwoo's chest tight. For 3 years, he'd wanted nothing more than to be free of this marriage. But sitting across from her now, seeing her vulnerable and honest for the first time, he felt an unexpected sense of loss. I hope you find happiness in Singapore. I hope you find Hiren. Really, I mean it. You two deserve a chance to see if what you had was real or just a fantasy that got interrupted. They finished lunch making small talk about logistics, when she'd move, what she'd take, how to handle the public announcement. It was civil and sad, and felt like the ending the marriage deserved. At 3 o'clock, they arrived at the district office. The clerk had the papers ready. All they needed to do was sign. Minna picked up the pen. Her hand shook slightly as she signed her name with careful precision. She looked up at Junwoo. Your turn. He reached for the pen, and then Minna's phone rang. She glanced at it, and her face went pale. It's my mother. I should take this. Go ahead. Minna stepped outside, and Junwoo could see her through the glass door. Whatever her mother was saying was making her upset. Her body language shifted, shoulders tensing, head dropping. When she came back inside, her eyes were red. I need to go. Right now. It's Hiren. There's been an accident. Everything else forgotten, they rushed to Junwoo's car. Mr. Park drove as fast as safely possible toward Severance Hospital, while Minna called her mother back for details. She was driving from Busan to Seoul, Minna said, her voice breaking. She wanted to surprise me for my birthday tomorrow. But there was construction on the expressway. Traffic was stopped, and a truck couldn't brake in time. It hit several cars. Hiren's was one of them. How bad? Mother didn't know. She just said to come quickly. They arrived at the hospital 30 minutes later. Madam Song was in the emergency waiting room, and with her was someone Junwoo didn't recognize, an elegant woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and expensive clothes. Minna, Madam Song grabbed her daughter. They're operating now. The doctors said her injuries are serious, but she should survive. Thank goodness, thank goodness. Can we see her? Not yet. They'll let us know when she's out of surgery. The elegant stranger looked at Junwoo with interest. So this is the famous Kang Junwoo. I'm Dr. Yoon Mi-ran, a friend of the family. I've heard so much about you. Something about her tone made him uncomfortable, but he just nodded politely. They waited 3 hours. Finally, a surgeon emerged. Family of Song Hae-rin? Everyone stood. The surgery went well. She's stable. However, there is a complication. She has a severe head injury that caused significant brain trauma. We won't know the full extent until she wakes up, but there's a high possibility of memory loss. Memory loss? Min-ah whispered. How much? We can't say yet. Could be recent memories, could be more extensive. We need to wait and see. Madam Song turned to Dr. Yoon. Miran, what do we do? We wait. That's all we can do. They were allowed to see Hae-rin briefly. She lay in the ICU, pale and still, connected to machines. Looking at her face, so identical to Min-ah's, Junwoo felt overwhelming guilt. Hae-rin had been driving to Seoul for Min-ah's birthday. If they hadn't forced her out of Seoul 3 years ago, if he'd had the courage to fight for her, she wouldn't have been on that highway. Min-ah touched her sister's hand gently. I'm so sorry, Annie. This is my fault. If I hadn't been so selfish, if I hadn't taken him from you, you wouldn't have left Seoul. You'd be safe. It's not your fault, Junwoo said, though he knew it was both their faults. All of their faults. Hae-rin woke up 2 days later. Min-ah and Junwoo were both at the hospital when the nurse called them in. Hae-rin's eyes were open, looking around with confusion. Hae-rin? Min-ah approached carefully. Can you hear me? Hae-rin turned her head, studying Min-ah's face. Who are you? The words hit like a physical blow. I'm Min-ah, your sister, your twin sister. Twin? Hae-rin looked genuinely confused. I don't remember. The doctor performed a series of tests over the next few hours. The diagnosis was devastating. Complete retrograde amnesia. Hae-rin had no memories of her life before the accident. She didn't know her name, her family, her profession. It was as if 30 years of life had been erased. Will it come back? Madam Song demanded. Possibly, the neurologist said. Sometimes memories return gradually, sometimes all at once, sometimes never. We have no way to predict. The trauma was severe. Her brain needs time to heal. Over the following weeks, they tried everything to help Hae-rin remember. They showed her photographs, told her stories, brought her paintings to the hospital. Nothing worked. She was a blank slate, learning about her life as if it were someone else's story. And something strange began to happen. Without her memories, Hae-rin's personality shifted. She was more reserved, more careful, more analytical. She asked questions about business and economics. She studied the family dynamics with sharp observation. She reminded everyone, disturbingly, of Min-ah. It's like they've switched places, Soo-jin whispered to Junwoo one day. The artistic sister has become practical, and the practical sister has become emotional. It was true. Min-ah, freed from the pressure of their divorce and overwhelmed with guilt about Hae-rin's accident, had started painting again, something she'd done as a child, but abandoned under her mother's pressure to focus on useful skills. Her paintings were surprisingly good, emotional and raw. Meanwhile, Hae-rin, learning about herself through photographs and stories, seemed drawn to the business world. Tell me more about Kang Industries, she'd say during visits. What do you manufacture? What are your markets? It was deeply unsettling. 2 months after the accident, Hae-rin was released from the hospital. Madam Song wanted her to come home, but Hae-rin refused. I don't remember that house. I don't remember you. Living there would feel like living with strangers. But we're your family. You say that, and maybe it's true, but I don't feel it. I'm sorry. In the end, it was Junwoo who suggested a solution. She can stay at my penthouse. I have a guest suite. She'll be comfortable there, and Min-ah can visit every day to help her adjust. That's not appropriate, Madam Song protested. Mother, Minna said quietly. Let her go. She's an adult. She should decide where she wants to be. To everyone's surprise, Hae-rin agreed to Junwoo's offer. The divorce papers, meanwhile, remained unsigned. In the chaos of Hae-rin's accident and recovery, they'd been forgotten in a drawer in Junwoo's office. Having Hae-rin in the penthouse was strange. She moved through the space carefully, touching things tentatively, trying to understand her connection to this man everyone said she'd once loved. Tell me about us, she asked one evening over dinner. Before the accident. They say we were in love. We were, 4 years ago, but circumstances separated us. What kind of circumstances? Family pressure, expectations. We weren't strong enough to fight for what we wanted. And now? Now I don't know. You don't remember me. I remember you, but I'm not sure if I remember the real you, or just an idealized version I created in my mind. Hae-rin studied him with those familiar yet strange eyes. That's surprisingly honest. I'm trying to be. I've caused enough harm with dishonesty. Where is Minna in all this? Your wife? Soon-to-be ex-wife. We were supposed to sign divorce papers the day of your accident. We never got to it. Do you love her? No, I never did. And I think that's the worst thing I could say, because she deserved to be loved. But you married her anyway. I did. That was cruel. Yes, it was. Hae-rin nodded, processing this. I don't remember any of it. Loving you, being hurt when you married my sister, leaving Seoul. But I look at you, and I feel something. I don't know if it's memory or just recognition of a face I've seen in photographs. We don't have to figure it all out right now. No, but eventually we will. Minna visited every day, spending hours with her sister, trying to help her remember. She brought sketch pads and paints, telling Hae-rin about her art. But Hae-rin showed no interest in creating art herself. Maybe I've changed, Hae-rin said one day. Maybe the accident didn't just erase my memories. Maybe it changed who I fundamentally am. People don't change like that, Minna protested. Don't they? Everything I'm told about my old self, sensitive, artistic, emotional, doesn't match how I feel now. I feel practical, analytical, curious about business and strategy. Maybe the person everyone knew as Hae-rin is gone. The words hung heavy in the air. 3 months after the accident, Dr. Yoon Mi-ran requested a meeting with the family. They gathered in a private room at an expensive restaurant in Gangnam. Junwoo, Min-ah, Hae-rin, Madam Song, and Dr. Yoon. There's something I need to tell you all, Dr. Yoon began. Something that's been kept secret for 30 years, but given the current circumstances, it can't remain hidden. Madam Song's face went white. Mi-ran, don't... They deserve to know, Youngja, especially now. Know what? Minna asked. Dr. Yoon took a breath. I was the obstetrician who delivered you both. And there was a complication during the delivery. You were identical twins, born minutes apart. But in the chaos of the birth, it was emergency C-section. You were premature. There were multiple nurses. The identification bracelets got mixed up. The room went completely silent. What are you saying? Junwoo asked. I'm saying that the baby marked as Song Minna might have actually been Song Hae-rin, and vice versa. We realized the error hours later, but by then, both babies were with Youngja, and she'd already bonded with them. We had no way to know which was which. They were absolutely identical. You're lying, Minna whispered. I wish I was. Youngja and I decided to keep it secret. We raised them as if the names were correct, called the older baby Minna and the younger one Hae-rin. But the truth is, we never knew for certain who was who. Madam Song stood abruptly. This is ridiculous. I know my daughters. Do you? Or do you know the personalities you shaped based on the names you gave them? You raised Minna to be responsible and practical. You raised Hayrin to be artistic and free. But what if the girl you called Minna was actually Hayrin, and you pushed her into a role that wasn't her true nature? The implications crashed down on everyone. Minna looked at Hayrin. You think the amnesia somehow revealed our true selves? That I'm actually Hayrin and she's actually Minna? I think it's possible. Look at what's happened. The artistic sister has become interested in business, and the business-minded sister has discovered a talent for art. Your true natures might be emerging without the weight of your assigned identities. Junwoo felt like the floor had disappeared beneath him. If this was true, it meant everything was wrong. It meant he'd fallen in love with the woman he'd later married. It meant the gentle, artistic woman he'd loved might have been living under the wrong name her entire life. There's a way to know for certain, Dr. Yoon continued. Genetic testing can tell us who was conceived first, who has which specific genetic markers. It won't tell us definitively which name is correct, but it will tell us their birth order. And I've kept records from the birth, the original bracelets, blood samples. We can compare. I want the test, the woman they'd called Hayrin said immediately. I want to know who I really am. Minna? Junwoo looked at her. She was crying silently. All my life, I felt like I was pretending to be someone I wasn't. I thought it was just me trying to please Mother. But what if I was literally living as the wrong person? The genetic testing took 2 weeks. During that time, the household existed in strange limbo. The woman called Hayrin continued living at the penthouse, but now every interaction was colored by uncertainty. Was she really Hayrin? Was she actually Minna? Did it even matter? Minna moved back into the penthouse too, taking her old bedroom. If we're going to figure this out, we should all be together, she said. It was strange having both sisters in the apartment. They looked exactly alike, yet their personalities were increasingly divergent. The artistic one painted in her room. The practical one studied business journals and asked Junwoo detailed questions about semiconductor manufacturing. This is insane, Sujin said when she visited. How do you live with this? I don't know who I married, Junwoo admitted. I don't know who I loved. I don't know who anyone is anymore. The test results arrived on a Tuesday afternoon. Dr. Yoon called everyone to her office to deliver the news in person. The results are conclusive, she said, laying out papers on her desk. Based on genetic markers, birth records, and the DNA samples I kept from 30 years ago, I can tell you definitively. The woman you've been calling Song Minna was actually born first, and the woman you've been calling Song Hayrin was born second. But that means, Minna started. It means the names are correct. The bracelets weren't switched after all, or if they were switched back. Song Min-ah is Song Min-ah. Song Hayrin is Song Hayrin. The relief and confusion were both overwhelming. But then why am I different? The woman called Hayrin demanded. Why don't I remember being artistic? Why am I interested in business now? Because trauma can change people, Dr. Yoon said gently. The accident didn't just erase your memories. It changed your neural pathways, your thought patterns, possibly even your personality. You're still Hayrin, but you're not the same Hayrin you were before. So, I've lost myself even more than I lost my memories. Or perhaps, Dr. Yoon suggested, you found a self that was always there but suppressed. Youngja, you raised your daughters very differently based on birth order and early temperament. But people are complex. Perhaps Hayrin always had analytical capabilities that were never developed, because everyone expected her to be the artistic one. Perhaps the accident freed her from those expectations. And me? Minna asked. Why am I suddenly good at painting? Perhaps for the same reason. You were always capable of artistic expression, but you were pushed toward practical skills instead. Now, with the pressure off, with the marriage ending, with your sister's accident forcing you to reevaluate everything, you're allowing yourself to explore parts of your personality that were dormant. They left the office in stunned silence. In the car, Hayrin, still definitively Hayrin, even if she was different now, said quietly, "So I really was in love with you. The old me, before the accident." "Yes." "Do you think I could fall in love with you again? This new me?" "I don't know. Do you want to?" "I don't know either, but I think we should find out." In the back seat, Mina stared out the window. Her identity was confirmed. She was who she'd always been. But she wasn't the same person either. None of them were. Over the following months, something unexpected happened. Junwoo found himself drawn to both sisters in different ways. The new Hayrin, sharp and curious and practical, challenged him intellectually in ways the old Hayrin never had. They discussed business strategy, debated economic policy, analyzed market trends. It was stimulating and engaging. But Mina, freed from the constraints of their failed marriage and exploring her artistic side, showed him beauty and emotion in ways he'd never experienced. She'd set up a studio in one of the penthouse rooms and painted every day. Her work was extraordinary, dark and light, painful and hopeful, exploring themes of identity and transformation. "I feel like I've been living my whole life as a shadow," Mina told him one evening. "Always trying to be what other people needed, never asking what I needed. But now, with the divorce pending and no pressure to be the perfect daughter or perfect wife, I'm finally meeting myself." "I like who you're becoming," Junwoo admitted. "Don't," she said sharply. "Don't start developing feelings for me now that I'm leaving. That would be too cruel." "Would it? Or would it just be honest?" "Junwoo, we had 3 years to figure this out. We failed. Don't rewrite history now just because I'm finally being authentic." But the truth was more complicated. The three of them, Junwoo, Mina, and Hayrin, were living together, eating meals together, slowly building new relationships that didn't fit old categories. One evening, Soojin visited and pulled Junwoo aside. "Appa, people are starting to talk. You're living with 2 identical twin sisters. It looks strange." "I know, but what am I supposed to do? Kick one of them out? Hayrin has no memories, no other place to go. And Mina is helping her adjust, while also figuring out her own identity. You need to make a choice. Finish the divorce with Mina, or don't. Pursue a relationship with Hayrin, or don't. But you can't keep all of you in this limbo." She was right, of course. But making a choice meant understanding what he actually felt. And that was the hardest question of all. Did he love the memory of old Hayrin, the artistic woman he'd met 4 years ago? Or was that just nostalgia and guilt? Did he have feelings for new Hayrin, this sharp-minded woman who shared a face but not a personality with his first love? Or was that just familiarity? And what about Mina? Was he finally seeing her because she'd stopped trying to be what everyone expected? Or was it just guilt and convenience? The answer came from an unexpected source. Chairman Kang Sun-hee, Junwoo's mother, had been mysteriously quiet about the entire situation. But 5 months after Hayrin's accident, she called a family meeting at the main Kang estate. Junwoo arrived to find not just his mother, but Madam Song, Dr. Yoon, and several lawyers. "What's this about, Mother?" "Sit down, Junwoo. There are things you need to know." What she revealed over the next hour destroyed and rebuilt his understanding of everything. 30 years ago, when Chairman Kang Sun-hee married Kang Dae-won, she'd already had a secret child, a daughter, born out of wedlock when Sun-hee was just 19. She'd given the baby up for adoption to protect her reputation and her chance at a good marriage. That baby was Dr. Yoon Mi-ran. "Mi-ran is my biological daughter," Sun-hee said calmly. "I gave her up, but I never stopped watching over her." I funded her medical education anonymously, helped her career, kept her close to the family without anyone knowing why. Why are you telling us this now? Junwoo demanded. Because Miran did something unforgivable 30 years ago, and it's time to face the consequences. Dr. Yoon stood, her face pale. I switched the babies, not accidentally, deliberately. Youngja and I had been friends for years, and I was so angry at her. She had everything, a good marriage, wealth, twin daughters. I'd had to give up my only child. So when the opportunity presented itself during the delivery chaos, I switched the bracelets. The baby Youngja thought was her responsible firstborn was actually her artistic younger daughter, and vice versa. I told her about the switch years later. But by then, the girls' personalities had already formed around their assigned names. Madam Song stood abruptly. You did this deliberately? You ruined my daughter's lives out of spite? I did, and I've lived with that guilt ever since. But Sunhee is right. It's time for the truth. But the genetic tests, Junwoo said, confused. They confirmed the names were correct. I falsified those results, Dr. Yoon admitted. I have the real results here. The truth is, the woman you've called Min-ah your entire lives is actually Haerin, and the woman you called Haerin is actually Min-ah. The room exploded in shocked exclamations. You're lying, the woman called Min-ah said, but her voice was uncertain. Doctor, Yoon pulled out another set of documents. These are the real results, verified by an independent laboratory. The genetic markers don't lie. Your mother raised you under the wrong names your entire lives. The implications were staggering. It meant that Junwoo had fallen in love with the real Haerin 4 years ago, the woman he'd later married under the name Min-ah. It meant the gentle, artistic woman he'd thought was Haerin was actually Min-ah, who'd been forced into an artistic role she'd never naturally fit. It meant the woman who'd lost her memories in the accident was Min-ah, who was now finally developing her true analytical nature without the pressure of her false identity. So when Haerin, the real Haerin, married me, Junwoo said slowly, she was already the woman I loved. She just didn't know it because she thought she was Min-ah, the rejected sister. Exactly, Dr. Yoon confirmed. You fell in love with Haerin twice. Once when you met her in the gallery, not knowing her real name, and again when you married her years later, still not knowing. The woman who'd been called Min-ah her entire life looked at Junwoo with tears streaming down her face. I'm Haerin? I'm the one you loved? You are. Then why did you treat me so coldly for 3 years? Because I thought you were Min-ah. I thought I'd married the wrong sister. But you didn't. You married the right one. We just didn't know it. The woman who'd been called Haerin, actually Min-ah, laughed bitterly. So I've been living my sister's life this entire time, pressured to be artistic and sensitive when I was actually practical and analytical. And now, with my memories gone, I'm finally becoming who I really am. Yes, Madam Song said quietly, and I'm so sorry. I knew the truth. Miran told me years ago, but I was so ashamed, so afraid of what it would mean to admit I'd raised my daughters under false identities. I kept the secret, and I hurt you both. Why reveal it now? Junwoo asked his mother. Because Miran came to me 3 months ago and said she couldn't live with the guilt anymore. She wanted to confess. I told her that the truth would destroy multiple families, but then I realized you were all already destroyed. Junwoo, you were divorcing the woman you actually loved because you thought she was someone else. Min-ah was living without her memories, finally becoming herself, but not knowing why. And Haerin was trapped in a false identity that had made her miserable for 30 years. The truth couldn't make things worse than the lies already had. The woman who was truly Haerin, who'd lived 30 years as Min-ah, stood and walked to Junwoo. Do you understand what this means? When you saw me in that gallery 4 years ago, you fell in love with Haerin. When your family pressured you to marry the practical sister, You still married Hayren. We just didn't know it. We've been married for 3 years. Miserable because we both thought it was wrong, but it was right all along. I don't know what I feel, Junwoo admitted. My mind is telling me you're Hayren, but my heart spent 3 years treating you like Minna. How do I reconcile that? We start over. Completely over. Not as Junwoo and the woman he thought was Minna. Not as Junwoo and the woman who turned out to be Hayren. But as two people meeting each other honestly for the first time, without the weight of false names, or family pressure, or confused identities. The woman who was truly Minna, who'd lived 30 years as Hayren, approached them. And what about me? I've been the wrong person my entire life. Now I have no memories, no art career I actually wanted, no identity at all. You have a chance to build a real identity, Dr. Yoon said gently. You're actually the person your mother tried to raise as Minna. Practical, analytical, business-minded. You can embrace that now without guilt. But I also lost 3 years with a man who might have loved me if he'd known who I really was. Junwoo looked at her, this woman who'd lost everything. I'm sorry. I don't know what I felt for old Hayren, who was actually you. But you're right. You deserve a chance to build your own life, not live in anyone's shadow. What followed were months of painful adjustment. Madame Song was prosecuted for fraud and conspiracy to conceal identity, though she received a suspended sentence given the unusual circumstances. Dr. Yoon lost her medical license permanently. The scandal was enormous. National news, tabloid fodder, the subject of countless articles about identity, family pressure, and the consequences of deception. The woman now confirmed to be Hayren legally reclaimed her real name. The marriage certificate was still valid. She and Junwoo were still legally married, and the divorce had never been finalized. But they needed time to figure out who they were to each other now. I spent 3 years being cold to you because I thought I was the wrong woman in the wrong marriage, Hayren said one evening. But I was the right woman all along. We were both the right people, just trapped in the wrong understanding. Can we find our way back to what we had in the beginning, when we first met? I don't know, but I want to try. The woman now confirmed to be Minna also legally reclaimed her real name. She moved out of the penthouse and into her own apartment, starting completely fresh. Without pressure to be artistic, she flourished in business consulting, using the analytical skills that had always been suppressed. She was finally, truly herself. Do you regret it? Soo-jin asked Junwoo months later. Not fighting harder for the woman you thought was Hayren 4 years ago? No, because fighting for her then would have meant marrying someone who was living under a false identity. This way, as painful as it's been, everyone is finally finding their real selves. And you an actual Hayren? Are you going to make it work? We're trying. Without the weight of thinking we're the wrong people, we're discovering we actually fit well together. She's the person I loved in the gallery. I just didn't recognize her because I thought she was someone else. A year after the truth came out, Junwoo and Hayren renewed their wedding vows in a small, private ceremony. Not because they had to, but because they wanted to. They invited only close family and friends who supported them. Minna attended, bringing her boyfriend, an American businessman she'd met through work, who knew nothing about the scandal, and loved her for exactly who she was. I'm happy for you both, Minna told them sincerely. For the first time in my life, I'm not competing with my sister or living in her shadow. I'm just me, the real me. That's worth more than anything. At the reception, Hayren pulled her sister aside. Thank you for coming. Of course, we may have lived each other's lives, but we're still sisters. We're still connected. Are you happy? Really happy? I am. For the first time, yes. I don't have memories of the past 30 years, which means I'm not trapped by them. I'm building a life from scratch as the person I actually am, not the person I was forced to be. I wish our mother hadn't lied. I wish Dr. Yoon hadn't switched us. Me too. But maybe everything happened the way it needed to. Maybe we both needed to lose ourselves completely to find ourselves again. They stood together, two women who shared identical faces but completely different souls, watching as guests mingled and celebrated new beginnings. Junwoo approached with 2 glasses of champagne. "What are you two talking about?" "About how we finally became ourselves," Haerin said, taking a glass. "To becoming ourselves," Mina toasted. They clinked glasses. 3 people who'd traveled the longest, most painful road to find their true identities. 3 years later, Haerin and Junwoo sat in their home, a new house in Seongbuk-dong, full of light and warmth, watching their 2-year-old daughter play. They'd named her Jiwon, meaning will or purpose, because her existence represented their intentional choice to build a family based on truth. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if we'd known the truth from the beginning?" Haerin asked. "Sometimes. But I try not to dwell on it. We could have been happy immediately. We could have avoided 3 years of misery. Or we could have taken each other for granted. The pain we went through taught us not to waste time on pretending or protecting feelings. We're honest now in ways we never could have been without that suffering."
Oh, that's a very optimistic way to look at years of emotional torment. I learned it from you. The new you. The real you. You taught me that suffering can be transformed into growth if we let it. Jiwon toddled over and climbed into her mother's lap. "Alma, tell story." "What kind of story?" "Princess story." Haerin smiled. "Once upon a time, there was a princess who didn't know who she really was. She lived in a castle, but it was the wrong castle, and she wore the wrong name. Everyone expected her to be someone she wasn't, so she tried very hard to fit their expectations." "Was she sad?" Jiwon asked. "Very sad. Until one day something happened that changed everything. The magic was broken, and she discovered her real name. And even though finding her real name was scary and painful, it also set her free. And did she live happily ever after? She lived truthfully ever after, which is better than happily, because it's real." Jiwon seemed to consider this profound wisdom with the seriousness only a toddler could muster. "Okay, that's good." That evening, after Jiwon was asleep, Junwoo and Haerin sat on their balcony overlooking Seoul's glittering skyline. "I got a message from Mina today," Haerin said. "She's getting married to that American businessman, David." "That's wonderful. Is she happy?" "Deliriously. She said she's grateful every day that the accident erased her memories, because it freed her from the false identity she'd carried for 30 years. She gets to live as her true self." "Do you ever feel guilty that your sister lost her memories?" "Sometimes. But she says she doesn't. She says losing her past was the only way she could build her future." They sat in comfortable silence, 2 people who'd found each other 3 separate times, once in a gallery, once in a marriage neither understood, and finally in truth. "Do you remember what you said to me that day in the gallery?" Junwoo asked. "When we first met?" "No. I don't remember that day at all. Remember, I thought it was my sister's memory. But you've told me about it so many times that it feels like mine now. You said that art was about revealing truth beneath surfaces, that the best paintings showed what was real, not what people wanted to see. Did I? That's very wise of me. It was, and prophetic, because that's what our entire story has been about, revealing truth beneath surfaces, seeing what's real instead of what we wanted to see." Haerin leaned against him. "I'm glad we ended up here. Even with all the pain, all the confusion, all the years of being the wrong people with the wrong names. I'm glad our story led to this moment." "Me too." In the distance, the city lights twinkled like fallen stars. Seoul had witnessed their entire journey, the false beginning, the painful middle, the hard-won ending that was really a beginning. A city of millions of stories, and theirs was just one.
but it was theirs. The woman in the crimson dress had walked into a restaurant thinking she was signing divorce papers, thinking she was the wrong woman in the wrong life. She'd walked out discovering she was exactly the right woman, just living under the wrong name. And the man who'd thought he married the wrong sister discovered he'd married the right one all along. They just hadn't known it. Sometimes the greatest love stories aren't about finding the right person. They're about discovering that the person you already have is the one you were looking for all along. They just happened to be wearing the wrong name, living the wrong life, waiting for truth to finally set them both free. Years later, when G1 was old enough to ask questions, they would tell her the whole story about identical twins raised as each other, about accidental love that turned out to be fated, about losing everything to find what mattered most. They would explain that identity isn't just about names or faces, but about the truth of who we are beneath all the expectations and assumptions. But for now, in this quiet moment, it was enough to simply exist together. 3 people connected by blood and choice, by mistake and intention, by all the wrong roads that somehow led to exactly the right place. The woman in the crimson dress had learned that sometimes you have to lose yourself completely to find yourself again. And the man who loved her had learned that sometimes the person you're looking for has been beside you all along, just wearing a different name. In a world of surfaces and assumptions, they'd finally found truth. And truth, as it turned out, was worth waiting for.